Hello everyone. Today I will tell you 5 stories about mysticism during road trips. All these stories are true. Get ready to get goosebumps and much more. Enjoy watching. Story about the black truck. A young couple, Kate and Mike, decided to spend the weekend in a small town outside their bustling metropolis. They were tired of the city hustle and wanted to enjoy the peaceful countryside. In the evening, they planned to go on a long drive to admire the beautiful sunsets and the vast rural landscapes. As they drove onto the highway, they noticed a black truck, which caught their attention immediately. At first glance, it seemed like a normal situation, just another vehicle that happened to be on the same road. But as they continued their journey, they noticed that the truck didn't change its course and was following them. The couple started to feel a bit uneasy, but they decided to ignore it and carry on. It could have just been a coincidence, they thought. However, the truck still continued to trail them at a constant distance. Gradually, the couple began to worry, despite their attempts to reassure themselves by saying that it could still be a coincidence. They found it slightly strange nonetheless. After all, they were driving through sparsely populated areas where there were hardly any other cars. So why did the truck choose to follow them? The couple felt a bit off, but they decided not to pay attention to it and continue on their way. It could have just been a coincidence after all. However, the truck still continued to follow them at a constant distance. Gradually, the couple began to worry, despite trying to reassure themselves that it could still be a coincidence. They still found it a bit strange. After all, they were driving through a sparsely populated area where there were hardly any other cars. Why did the truck choose them? After several kilometers of continuous driving with the black truck tailing them, Kate and Mike finally decided to pull into a gas station. They reasoned that if something was threatening them, they could ask for help from the gas station attendants, or at least pretend they weren't alone. They pulled into the gas station, but before they could come to a stop, they heard a sinister screech of brakes behind them. They looked back and saw that the black truck had instantly vanished. It was no longer behind them. This frightened them even more. They immediately drove up to the gas station premises and told the staff about the strange incident. The entire staff listened attentively and with caution to their words. They decided to call the police and report what had happened. But even with all the police's efforts to find the black truck, it was never found. The truck's disappearance marked the beginning of an investigation that remained unsuccessful. The young couple, Kate and Mike, never managed to find out who was following them and why. They remained puzzled and bewildered, asking themselves these questions for many years. The story of the black truck will always be in their memories as an unsolved mystery. The story of the disappearance on the dark road. The driver, whose name was Nikita, continued driving along the dark road, his heart beating faster than usual. He tried to find an explanation for what had happened. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a bright light flashed before his eyes, and he lost consciousness. When Nikita woke up, he found himself in an unfamiliar place. It was late in the evening, and the atmosphere surrounding him was filled with mystery. He saw tall, dark trees in front of him and a faint light seeping through their leaves. Nikita decided to continue searching for answers and ventured down the path leading through the ominous forest. The further he went, the thicker the atmosphere became. The cold wind pierced through his clothes, and shadows blurred and disappeared between the trees. But he didn't give up. His curiosity was too strong to stop. Note for the user: we apologize, but we cannot translate the rest of the text as it exceeds the character limit. At some point, he heard a rustling sound behind him. Nikita stopped and looked back but saw no one. His heart pounded even faster. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appeared before him. Whether it was his imagination or a real person, he couldn't tell. He tried to approach, but the apparition slowly vanished. Terrified, Nikita ran back to his car. By the time he reached it, the police had already arrived at the scene. Nikita was scared and confused. When he told them everything, they looked at him with disbelief. But since there were no physical evidence, the police couldn't help him find an explanation. Since then, Nikita became known as the Disappearance on the Dark Road. Ahead of him lay a long road of unraveling mysteries, and he was determined to find answers to his questions. He decided to become a storyteller, to explore stories of mysterious disappearances and provide answers to those who had encountered enigmatic forces. The story, The Secret Passenger. The police began an active investigation into the crime based on information provided by the taxi driver. He described the woman as pale, with sad eyes and visible signs of trauma. It was clear that she appeared in front of the taxi driver when his passenger was a man. Detectives began their investigation and discovered that a crime had occurred on this road several years ago. The woman described by the taxi driver had been raped and murdered. However, at the time, there was not enough evidence to catch the perpetrator, and the case remained unsolved. But with the emergence of new witnesses, the life of this brutal killer could change, and detectives intensified their efforts to find the suspect. The taxi driver cooperated with the police, providing his testimony and drawings of the woman he saw in his car. Soon, rumors of the mysterious woman in the back seat of the taxi spread throughout the city. Many people began to question past crimes that could be connected to this case. Witnesses started to come forward, claiming they had seen a woman matching the description in different parts of the city. The detectives tirelessly investigated each witness testimony and compared them to the evidence from previous investigations. Gradually, the pieces of the puzzle came together, and they finally found a clue that led them to a suspect. The suspect had a history of multiple previous convictions related to crimes against women. He turned out to be a serial rapist and murderer, and his crimes had lasted for many years, eluding the police from catching him earlier. With the help of new evidence, the police conducted a search of his house, where they discovered a collection of items that implicated him in his crimes. This gave the police confidence that they had the right person. The suspect was arrested and brought to trial. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for his series of rapes and murders. The taxi driver received recognition from the police for his brave actions and assistance in the investigation. His vivid accounts of what happened in his taxi, right up to the appearance of the mysterious woman, helped the police find evidence and locate the real culprit. He often recalled this incident with awe and gratitude towards the police for allowing him to be a part of solving this tragedy. Every time he looked into his rearview mirror, he remembered that his story. The Ghost Highway Story. A young family consisting of John, Lisa, and their 5-year-old son Jake decided to embark on a long road trip by car. Their goal was to meet relatives who lived in a distant city. Along the way, they had to choose a route through an abandoned highway, although it was known for its dark and terrifying stories. The night was dark, and the moonlight barely penetrated through the thick clouds. When the family began their journey, they noticed that their car started behaving wildly. The steering wheel became incredibly heavy, and the engine made strange sounds. John and Lisa were worried, but they didn't want to disturb Jake, who was sleeping in the back seat. Through the murky car windows, they noticed that it was getting colder around them, despite the working heater. Little Jake started shivering from the cold, and his parents realized that something strange was happening. Suddenly, their gaze fell on the roadside, where ghostly figures stood. They were beckoning the family to stop. Seeing this horrifying sight, John and Lisa became frightened and decided to leave this place as quickly as possible. They accelerated the car, but the ghostly figures didn't leave them alone. They started chasing the family, interfering with the car's movement. Trying to stay calm and save themselves and their son, John tried to control the car with all his might, but every time he looked back, he saw the ghosts getting closer and closer. The family was at the breaking point of fear and desperation. They didn't know how to escape from these sinister pursuers. At that moment, Lisa remembered a story she had heard about a supposed salvation on this road. She asked John to drive through a small tunnel nearby. Although they were scared, they decided to give it a try. When they entered the tunnel, the ghostly figure stopped in front of its entrance. John and Lisa felt relieved, but they knew that the escape was not over yet. They found a peaceful place to rest and calmed Jake, who had already started crying from fear. Finally, when the dawn came, the family emerged from the tunnel and continued their journey to their relatives. The family still had jittery nerves, but they found the strength to leave behind the horrible past and rejoice in the reunion with their loved ones. The story of the ghostly highway became a lesson for them about how sometimes scary stories can turn out to be real. The Secret Village Road. A group of friends decided to have an unforgettable vacation and venture deep into the village to uncover some horrifying stories about local places. It was known that mysterious and unexplainable events took place in these areas, which only added to the intrigue of their exploration. Along the way, the friends listened to scary stories told by the village elders. They spoke of mysterious disappearances that occurred in those parts, and of ghostly figures that could sometimes be seen here. All of this heightened the excitement of the travelers and made them a little more nervous than usual. And so, after a few hours of travel, the group of friends discovered an ancient and mysterious village road that they had heard many stories about. At first, it was difficult to make out the road as it was covered with dense dark leaves and did not stand out against the backdrop of the surrounding nature. However, they immediately felt that it was the one they had been looking for. Knowing about its connection to a dark past, the friends decided not to linger and chose to continue their journey on the road. But after a while, their car suddenly broke down, leaving them trapped on a dark and deserted road. They realized that it was not a coincidence and that something was not right with them. The friends' nerves were stretched to the limit. As their horror grew, they heard mysterious sounds and saw ghostly figures disappearing into the darkness. They tried to keep themselves together, but each new sound or movement in the darkness only added to their fear. Darkness surrounded them, and all they could see were shadows and figures, sometimes disappearing into the darkness. Panic gripped them more and more. They realized that this road had some connection to the bloody past they had been told about. Feeling that time was working against them, the friends tried to find a way out of this trap. They began exploring the surroundings, but each new step only intensified their fear. All the locals had vanished. There was no quick help available. However, the friends didn't give up. Striving to survive, they discovered a small refuge in an old wooden hut. Suddenly, an idea came to them: to travel back in time and unravel the mystery of this road. Using the items they found, they began investigating the history connected to the road. Learning about the bloody events that had occurred here in the past, the friends realized that the road served as a bridge between the world of the living and the world of the dead. They understood that to free themselves, they needed to reconcile the dark forces, see the truth, and overcome their fear. Was such a mission possible? Could the friends escape alive and solve the mystery of this road? The answers to these questions put them at risk, but they were prepared to go all the way to save themselves from this horrifying past and return to the world of the living.